What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. Y'all look sad. Y'all all right?
Good.
Somebody died? Damn. Give me some smiles, man. Here we go.
What was the difference between 3 points in the first half?
Oh,
6 points after halftime.
Dude, tell me about it. All right, right? That was the question I was kind of trying to mentally prepare myself for. I thought we came out the first half, obviously, did what we were supposed to do. Like I said, points is the most important thing, but the second half, it kind of went downhill, man. And I take full ownership in that. I could have put the guys in a much better position to be successful, especially with the way the game was heading. There were some calls that I wish I had back, but that is solely on me as a play caller. There are some things there that I could have did to help our guys tremendously in terms of coverage when they started to air it out a little bit, and so I got to make sure I do a better job at that. When I'm just looking at everything whole par whole. Obviously, I thought we did a really good job in the first half, trying to eliminate some of the explosives. Overall, but yeah, that's solely on me, man. I got to be better. I will be better. I thought our guys did come out and fight. They didn't really bat an eye. When things did kind of start to go awry. We had a bunch of young players get in the game, and had a flashback for a second to last year, and it was just so good to see those guys finish. It wasn't what we wanted in the second half. That isn't the standard for Illinois football defense, especially defensively. And I gotta do better at that, and I will. But just know, like, from you guys' standpoint, like, our players, they're pissed defensively, right? Like, they want to have success, they want to do well, and so I just think that I'm happy that we won for sure, but there's no satisfaction in giving up that many points to a defender that you had down. And in that moment, you're supposed to choke those kind of guys out, like literally supposed to put them away.
Was there anything that surprised you with what they did, or and Ryan obviously has a lot of familiarity with that? Did that help them? Or?
No, it wasn't nothing that really surprised me. I kind of felt like, had heard through the grapevine that Ryan may be calling, may not be calling. Obviously, he knows this. He knows us, our personnel. One, he knows our personnel extremely well, and two, he just knows the landscape of how we operate and do things. So it didn't shock me to hear that he was calling it or whatnot, but no, it wasn't nothing surprising, man. It's, again, like, I want to take full ownership, because I don't want to make it okay, that player did that player. I have to put them right. I have to put them based on their skill set in a better position to be successful. There were some calls that we had. Obviously, it was a couple of newer calls that we had that they executed at a really, really high clip, right? That I have to make sure with those new calls that we added. I got to do a better job of just putting them in better positions, right? And maybe I could have got away from some of those calls, those newer calls in the second half. I definitely think that would have helped us.
Coach, a little bit different look with the defensive front to start the game. Was that based on the opponent, or was that something you saw during the bye week as self-scouting yourself?
It was a combination of two, right? Like, one, we felt like just matchup-wise, with what they were going to try to present in 12, I just wanted to try to put us in an advantageous position to go out there and not give up a long ball or not screw up something in terms of our run integrity. And so, we kind of looked at that grouping all week, and we felt good about the guys that were in there. And so just wanted to change it up a little bit. And we had a couple of, obviously, Sabor was able to get on the field, right, show his length, show his athletic ability, and obviously end up running the ball on that play. But it's just something that's obviously we keep moving forward. You try to self-scout and you try to find groupings that you think can help you, especially with some of the younger players that we have.
And you mentioned the newer coverages. Brett mentioned that on Saturday. What's your balance as a play caller for kind of deciding when to show those, and then I guess what did you learn about how to maybe pull back out of those?
Well, two parts, right? One, I hate bye weeks, right? Because bye weeks, you try to like reinvent things. You start looking at things that could potentially help you, and they could be of benefit, but like, what are you good at? Like, what have your guys been really, really good at? What has been the premise of this defense, right? Like, what was the reason why this defense had success from Jump Street, right? And it was due in large part to, guys may have gotten beat on the outside, but there wasn't a lot of home runs over the middle, you know what I'm saying? Because you typically had a post player relatively deep, but, like, in learning that, right, like, more time don't always equal success. More time to think about. I think sometimes as coaches, we can outthink ourselves and think we need this call and that call, when truly the magic is in our players, right? I can remember I can remember in 2022, I mean, we were our first game of the season. I mean, coach probably called we had like 4 defensive calls the whole game, right? And they played really well. You know what I mean? And so like, again, I gotta, you know, sometimes as a young coordinator, young coach, you know, you think you can whoopsie-do and create something magical that can obviously our goal is to try to be good in a run-in pass game. But I think sometimes when you do that and you throw something new in there, right? Our young men, they got to worry about school, they got to worry about freaking social media, they got to worry about girlfriends, family, right? They got a lot of stuff they got to deal with. And then when you add that element to it, you know, it's I think it becomes a thinking game. I don't want our players thinking. They're not as talented when they're thinking. You know what I mean? And you see that, right? They're not playing as fast when they're thinking. And so, again, I take full responsibility for what took place in the second half, man, and I have to do a better job in managing and putting them in the right position, you know, to go out there and have success.
What are you telling your guys to expect with this game coming up against Michigan?
Well, first and foremost, obviously there's we're going to be celebrating 100 years, right? I think there's a lot of history in that, you know, and obviously we get to come to this stadium and this facility every single day. So I think the first thing is that, right, there's a history here, right? And anytime you're talking about history, you have to talk about like where this place came from as opposed to where it is now, you know. And you can't forget about the men, the players, the people that came before you. And so I think a big thing going into this week, right, the goal is obviously play really, really, really good defense, but more importantly, man, like this is a magical opportunity that we're about to have in this stadium, right? You're talking about a top 25 ranked matchup, right? I think it's on CBS, is what I'm being told, right? It's on CBS, primetime matchup, 2 really good opponents, right? Obviously, Michigan is historically a blue blood program, right? They've been at the forefront of a lot of things in terms of football-wise nationally, right? And they're coming into Champaign, Illinois, and we get a chance to play them, right? In front of, I'm hoping it's a sellout crowd in front of the world, you know. And so one thing I spoke to our guys yesterday about just opportunity, right? Like you don't get these opportunities oftentimes as a young player, you know, in your career. So you have to take advantage of them, you know. I know every young man has aspirations of playing on Sunday, right? But before you can play on Sunday, you got to play on Saturday, right? And so it's going to be a great opportunity for us to play, right, this Saturday, and just truly, like, you don't have to go out there and be Superman. I don't have to go out there and create some magical call, right? Like just go out there and execute your job, do it as fast as you can, and the success will come in that, you know, if we just do it repetitively, right, and do it at a really, really high speed.
So would it be fair to say maybe you overthought it a little bit as far as, you know, changing things for the different quarterback and the different?
No, I wouldn't say overthought, because I did those same calls I had in the first half, right? And so like I wouldn't necessarily put in overthought. I do think that I could have when they adjusted their game plan in the second half and they didn't run the quarterback as much, you know, I could have adjusted better. You know, that's probably a term that I would use, adjust better. But like, obviously going into the game, you got a team down 24-3 at the half. You think you're gonna probably handle them the rest of the way, you know what I mean? And so I for sure could have done a better job adjusting, right, and put our players in a more advantageous position for the rest of that game, especially in the back half of the game.
Yeah, they put a couple quarterbacks and expecting another one. We know they can run the ball. We know what their identity is.
Yes,
but what do you think of this offense?
Yeah, well, obviously they have talented players at every position, right? And they played 3 different quarterbacks this year, and so no matter which quarterback they play, I tell you one thing: all of them can do, right? All of them can run. All of them have the ability to throw the ball to a receiver or tight end. And what they do really, really good at is they run the ball at a very, very, very high clip. So I tell you this, no matter who's at quarterback, I'm sure at some point during the course of the game, maybe to start the game, they got 2 tailbacks that are ridiculous. That dude's going to turn around and he's going to hand the ball off to him. All right? Not to try to be funny, but he's going to hand the ball off to him And the truth of the matter is, it really doesn't matter who's back there handing the ball off to them. They have to be able to manage the offense and make sure, because I'm sure they don't want to turn the ball over. I'm sure that they don't want to obviously make mistakes and fumble the ball in any of that capacity. But they're going to try to control the game. I would like to think in the run game and try to open it up for explosive plays down the field. And so obviously going into a game of this magnitude, right, our goal is to make sure that we contain that and limit that, you know, and try to create as many negative plays, as many takeaways as possible, right? Because I think with a team of this caliber, right, like they have a freaking really good O-line. Really good O-line. I'm talking about from tackle to tackle. You throw in the tight end, right? I think Colston Loveland. I thought the Penn State cat was ridiculous, and he is a really good player. I thought the Purdue cat was really, really good, right? And this cat is just as talented. He just may be the best one out of all of them, you know. And so he creates his own matchup problem for our defensive backs, for our linebackers, for anybody that's covering them. You know what I mean? And so I tip my hat to Coach Moore and what he's done with that program. Obviously, he was the co-OC there when we played him a couple of years ago, O-line coach, right? I don't think a lot of things have changed in terms of his mentality and what he wants to try to establish and do, right? Obviously, there's some personnel things that have changed, but right, they're going to come into an environment on the road, and I'm sure that their expectation fully is to go out there and have success.
Do you get a sense that you and your defense are anxious to get back on the field and get another crack after that Purdue game?
You know what's awesome, right? Like obviously, you know, the goal is anytime you play a game or you don't have as much success, you do have success, the goal is to go into the next game and try to have as much success as possible. I got a question for you. Do you know who the DC was in 2010?
2010 here. Was that the interim coach from 2011?
Which was?
I forget his name. Oh, Vic.
Okay, good. Do you know what was their record that year?
7-6.
Okay, you're pretty good, right?
Yeah.
You're really good. Do you know what was the most points they gave up that year?
65 in Michigan.
Oh,
or 67.
Yeah, they had us beat by 15. You know, so my point was when I was telling that to our staff this morning is nobody, unless obviously you got a diehard Illinois fan, nobody remembers, right, what happens the previous week or the week after if you go out there and take care of responsibilities in the game ahead, right? And so you try not to dwell on that. You try to learn from it and grow from it. And our guys are so excited to be chomping at the bit, to be completely honest with you, because, you know, that's not an expectation, right? I wish you could have seen the look on their faces, right, going into our meetings yesterday. But the reality of it is that we got to play better. We will play better. You know, we have to play better because we're going to play against better teams, you know. And I think at the end of the day, when you put all of it together, the goal is just to be a complete team, right, and try to win the game. You know, I'm very excited about where we're headed as a program and where we're headed defensively, skewing the second half of this past weekend. But I don't want to dismiss that we're 5-1 right now, right? I don't want our players to forget, right, on the road to success, right? We had a little adversity, right? So how do we overcome that? You just keep moving along and moving ahead, because the time is going to come for us to bow up and have success and be who we're capable of being from a defensive standpoint. And we hope in that manner, like we give ourselves an opportunity to continue to go out there and win games.
Thanks, Coach Henry.
Appreciate you guys, man.